Cinema Therapy is back. The podcast for people who know nothing about life but all about TV and film. I'm Nicole.
I'm Karen.
Happy New Year. Happy 2019. This episode is called Thank You 2018. 2019 next. We look back at some of the movies and TV shows we watched in 2018 and what specific lessons we are taking from those into the upcoming year. How are you, Karen?
You know what? I'm great.
That's great.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really on top of this year so far.
Oh my God.
I know, I feel good. It takes a lot of discipline. I feel like I don't have a social life anymore. But I feel like my Saturn has returned.
I mean, has it like officially in astrology?
Well, it started like at 28, I feel, but it has completed this year, and I feel like I'm on top of things. It's only been 2 weeks into the new year, but I feel really good, and I feel like it's taken a lot of things like saying no to people and you know, just putting myself first and thinking ahead, thinking of the bigger picture. I feel like I am on top of this year.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I'm feeling this Capricorn energy right now.
Oh, yeah, that's my moon sign.
Yo, I woke up this morning and was like, you know what I want to do? Fold some clothes the Marie Kondo way. And I just tackled my little closet area in our second bedroom, and I was folding the KonMari way and made so much more space for myself. The first trailer that I saw of this show, I cried. And
from the trailer?
Yes, from the fucking trailer. I cried, and people were like, it's an organizational show, right? And I'm like, yes, but there's so much emotion tied to our things, and I totally understand her whole philosophy, and like really like just like flattening out like every clothing piece that you have and then folding them and just recognizing like what they bring into your life and just like thanking for them and just acknowledging all the things that you have, because like I realize like if you know all the things that you have in your closet, you don't feel that need to continue like engaging in consumerism and try to fill some hole in your life, because you realize you have a lot of things in your home and they're serving all these purposes for you. Yeah, I'm feeling this Capricorn energy. I'm ready to tackle this new year. I want to be a better, greater Nicole all the time.
Yeah. I actually did go I went to a Marie Kondo training seminar, so to speak, at the Wing, actually.
Wow.
And I just love that something encourages every individual to ask themselves, what brings you joy?
Yes. Yeah.
You know what? We don't ask ourselves enough. And I also have been getting rid of a lot of things. A lot of boxers from my exes.
Wow.
I know that sounds creepy, but I've kept a lot of boxers from my exes.
I get that, though.
But I got rid of them.
They're like trophies.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I mean.
Well, I got rid of them.
I sound like a serial killer.
I got rid of those boxers. I got rid of socks from my exes. I have a lot of stuff from my exes that I kept. But I got rid of them.
Good for you.
Great.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to, like, look at everything and say, do you bring me joy? And just get rid of it in a matter of like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's very free.
It feels very intentional. It's just nice to like acknowledge what you have and then decide whether it's still providing some sort of energy to you. If it isn't, then get rid of it. Free your space, free your mind, for your home. It's a lovely philosophy. I can get behind it.
Because we're making room for better things.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I love
it. Thank you. What are we talking about today, Nicole?
Okay. This show is partially inspired by 52 Lists. It's a guided journaling book I received from a dear friend. Shout out to Blair. I typically think of the question of like, what are the traits of your favorite characters when like I'm in team building exercises. It's like one of my favorite questions to ask of like, oh, you know, what are your favorite characters, or like what character do you identify with most? And in this journaling book, it instead looks at like what characters you admire most and like what are the shared traits between those characters. And you can use that as a tool to gauge, you know, your goals for personal development. So this whole episode is looking back at films and TV from 2018 and beyond, not limiting ourselves too much, but what have we learned from the characters, themes, lessons that film and TV has taught us, and what we want to bring into this new year in developing ourselves. And brought this idea to Karen. She was about it.
Yeah, I love lists.
Yeah.
I just love lists so much. And I love any kind of activity that encourages introspection, reflection, and just a moment to look at yourself and think about, and just put yourself first, to think about you.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated it when you came with that. Who are some characters that you want to bring into 2019?
Good question, Karen. I'll tell you. So, one of the traits of characters that I want to bring in is courage. I feel like too often I let the fear of failure get in my way, instead of like appreciating the journey and realizing that there is value in learning something, and then it may, you know, not working out. I think sometimes I'm very like results oriented, and I just want to have that bravery to just tackle new things and learn from it, even if that means failure and pain and whatnot. I would say one of my favorite courageous characters is from a 2018 movie, Black Panther. Nakia, played by the lovely, fabulous, courageous actor Lupita Nyong'o. In this film, she plays a spy for the Kingdom of Wakanda. And I love her her character, because you can see that she truly loves T'Challa, but she's not blindly following him. And I think sometimes people think that love is just blindly supporting their partner, and rather than acknowledging where they have trouble or challenges and bringing those to light. I think one of the beautiful things about being in a relationship is serving as a mirror to your partner and seeing seeing yourself reflected in them and seeing what you can work on. Nakia sees that she's a spy for the Kingdom of Wakanda, so she sees different countries and the struggles that they deal with, and she sees that like Wakanda is thriving, they're doing really well, but they're not supporting the development of other countries, even though there are a lot of countries that look like the people of Wakanda. So she brings this about to the king and like lets him know that they could be doing more. She also, when there are challenges that are brought about and she's like unfamiliar with certain situations, she doesn't shy away from that. She acknowledges what her challenges are, and she's like, I'm a spy, I'm not a warrior, but she's put in situations where she has to fight, and she knows that it is a challenge for her, but she doesn't shy away from it, and it's really inspiring to me. I love it. I'm really into it.
Do you feel like you were lacking courage in 2018?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I'm always lacking courage. I know that I'm like, it's a journey for me, so I'm not going to say that I'm completely devoid of courage, you know, because that would be too harsh on myself. I think I have a tendency to not jump into things because I think it might not become something huge or whatever. Example being, I have, like, for a long time wanted to delve into something more creative, like acting or doing improv work, writing, and I hadn't taken the time to take classes or anything like that. So in my journey working towards these skills that I want to bring about in my life, I decided to take this screenwriting class summer of 2018. And it was really great. It showed me that I do have ideas and I can be innovative, and I still have this creative bone, even though I haven't found a way to, you know, use that in my professional life. But I'm still working on like ways that I can put forth that creative energy and create content that I'm proud of, and instead of like working on something for a small amount of time and thinking it's going to be perfect. I think that's like something that I really struggle with, because I am certainly a critic more than anything. I am very, very harsh on myself, and when I look at something that I'm working on and I feel like it's trash, instead of continuing to work on it, sometimes I just throw it away and I'm like, I'm not good at that. And that's not a way to approach things. I need to be kinder to myself and realize that in a lot of different areas, I'm still a child. Like, I'm still very much a beginner, and I shouldn't be afraid of that. And that's okay, because I'm 29. Like, it's okay to be a beginner in a lot of different things.
Are there specific things that you're facing in 2019 that you feel like you need courage for?
I think I really want to grow the audience of this podcast, because I love doing this with you, and I think it brings a lot of joy into my life. And I feel like I want to, share this with as many people as possible, and I want to learn as much as I can about making this the most polished professional it can be. And I think my fear in like learning more about editing and learning more about like creating intros or whatever, like just bringing about like the things that will make it look like podcasts that I've enjoyed in the past. I think putting energy and time and money into those things is sort of a risk, because it could turn into it could be nothing, and I'll just look back at it and I'm like, oh, that was a waste of money. That was like, I think of it as like all the times I've like decided like, oh, I'm gonna learn how to knit, and then I buy a knitting package, and then I try for a little bit, and then I'm like, fuck this, and then it's like, okay, that was $40 lost, or whatever it was. Even with the screenwriting class, because like I spent money on it, and then I still feel like it was a very valuable experience, and I learned a lot. But I wasn't able to take it to the end. I think I had like 2 more classes I needed to do to technically finish. But this was like right before my wedding.
Oh my gosh.
And I was planning my wedding this whole time, and it was a lot, and it was just a lot, and my whole head was wedding content, honestly. Like,
right, of course.
That was my focus. And I think I was a little too impatient, and I didn't time it correctly for the stage I was in my life. I think I want to like put energy in a lot of different directions, but like my head was just not there, and I need to be honest with myself. So I'm glad I cut it off, because I was just not in the place to fully devote my entire energy to it. And I do feel like I learned a lot about like what I want to be doing in the film, TV industry going forward. So that was exciting.
And may you bring that Nakia energy into whatever you want to do.
Wakanda forever.
Yeah. Yes. And may you bring it.
Yes,
you will.
I plan on it.
You will.
Tell us about a trait or character or theme that you've learned. Oh my God, what was that noise?
Sorry, I'm drinking water.
Sexy.
I really want to bring in resilience.
Ooh.
I already feel like I'm a resilient person just because I'm still alive today, and I know that's very dramatic to say.
I mean, who would you be if you weren't dramatic?
Exactly. I feel like I've been through a lot. Obviously, a lot of other people in this world have been through worse things than me. I am counting my blessings. But I feel like I have been through a lot, and yet I'm still standing, and I'm still as ambitious as ever. So I'm just hoping that my resilience has resilience for this upcoming year.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like I have a lot of dreams that might be a little overambitious, just because of systemic problems or where I am currently. But, I am where I am, and I want what I want. And I feel like I already have the ambition, so I feel like my resilience will help me get to where I want to be.
What's a character that has resilience that you admire?
Daenerys Stormborn of the House Targaryen.
Oh my gosh.
First of her name, the Unburnt, Queen of the Andals and the First Men, Khaleesi of the Great Grassy, Breaker of Chains, and Mother of fucking Dragons.
So her full name. So her entire name. In case there was any confusion. Not Daenerys from the rainforest, but Daenerys Targaryen Strongborn.
Because she is all of these things. She went through all of these things to be where she is at today. Because she is an embodiment of all of her struggles, of her entire past. And I feel like I would like to be that.
Yeah. I think you're super resilient.
Oh, like for real.
I mean, of course, like we can all improve in all like the traits that we have. But I think for someone who is very who appreciates their vulnerability, who's not one to shy away from like showing their true self, you put yourself out there a lot, and there are times where people take advantage of that, and that's a hard position to be in. I think that can be very draining, to be putting forth your true self and then have, people who don't appreciate that. So I think resilience is something that you show all the time.
Thank you so much.
I love it.
I appreciate it.
I'm not surprised that Daenerys is one of your favorite characters.
Yes, I feel like she's going to take the throne. She's going to take the throne this year.
Did you go blonde for Daenerys?
Ah!
Was that it? Did I just discover it?
Even.
Oh my God.
Do not even, Nicole. You know what? I'm just going to say I was Daenerys for Halloween.
Did it go into your decision where you're like, when Halloween comes about, I will have the blonde hair and I'm going to be so ready? I swear.
I don't know.
Breaking news, guys.
Listen. I'm going to be real. I just go through major changes with my hair, specifically when I'm dealing with something emotional. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know where the blonde came from, the blonde inspo.
Okay.
I don't know. But she is my favorite character on Game of Thrones.
So it's possible. I just want to know that it's possible that it could have
I will never admit. I will never say. Do I think Daenerys is the most wily character? Do I think she's the most intelligent? No. But she had a goal from the get-go, from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And we knew that. And it's just very inspiring to see someone who was underestimated by the patriarchy, to just keep pursuing what she wanted and to go through all of these heaps and hurdles. And it's so exciting to see where she is right now in the 7th season of Game of Thrones.
It is extremely empowering, and it's nice to see a different way of exhibiting power, especially for a woman, because when you look at Cersei, she exhibits her power in a completely different way. Mm-hmm. She is probably one of the least... she doesn't provide a lot of sympathy to a lot of people. Like, her energies are focused on mainly her children, her family, apart from her brother. Which brother I'm talking about. You know who she cares about. While I think that Daenerys is a much more empathetic person. She, is the breaker of chains for a reason. Like, she cares about her subjects, the people who are in her kingdom. So, even though she's been through so much, it doesn't harden her to a point where she doesn't have this sympathy for others. She instead, I think, becomes much more giving and loving because of that. Mm-hmm. So I think that is something to keep in mind when, you go through trauma. Sometimes you want to harden yourself and be that little crab and be like, nah, like no more, allowing myself to open up to emotions. And, the fact that she is opening herself up to Jon Snow shows that she still can. So
her nephew.
Yeah, I mean... problematic.
Yeah. But
problematic.
At the end of the day, it is all about that Khaleesi energy. And it is kind of an affirmation to me to think about that and say, I will bring in this kind of energy today.
You will.
It's ridiculous. It's so absurd.
I love it. No. It's not absurd at all. I believe it. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just keep thinking back to shout out to Ty if she's listening. But I remember the second season of Game of Thrones was coming out, and we were in DC, and Ty's father was like, man, why do you like this girl so much? Like, I just feel like you're like, oh, she's just a pretty white girl with blonde hair. That's the only reason why you like her.
She's really nice.
Yeah, so, like, this conversation, I just want to go back to me in 2013 when we were talking about this and be like, no, I know exactly why we like Daenerys. It's not just because she's blonde. So, another character that I would say that I appreciate is Hermione Granger, Harry Potter series. From reading the books, I really liked Hermione, but I could see if I saw her in school, she would probably not be the person I would be drawn towards, because I think I'm intimidated by people who are that organized and that prepared for situations, because I feel like that is a trait that I lack in sometimes, and I think it comes from that same lack of bravery sometimes. Just like they say, when you're a procrastinator, what keeps you from engaging in whatever the activity is and avoiding those activities is because you're scared of not performing to the level that you expect. So you instead avoid it until you end up being self-defeating and, like, providing that same prophecy that you were scared of. So I think sometimes, like, when I see characters or, like, people who have the traits that I lack, then I'm, like, not as attracted to those people, because I'm like, oh, you're going to see that I'm not that organized, or I'm not as, like, prepared as you are.
Sorry, I feel like you're very organized, though.
That is something I'm working on. So here's the thing, and I think this is a problem for a lot of people. When I was young, I was told a lot of things. I was told that I was lazy. I was told, a lot of times that was a word that I heard a lot, that I was lazy and I was very disorganized. Now, the disorganization was very true. What I had was undiagnosed ADHD. I was like, my mind was all over the place, and I had a huge problem with, like, readying myself up for the day, because my mind goes in so many different directions. Now, as a 29-year-old woman, I'm recognizing the things that I can work on. And I actually am a person who can be very prepared for things, and I can be extremely organized. You know, Marie Kondo is teaching me some stuff unfolding, but I am a person that can be very prepared for situations, because I've realized that my anxiety is especially tenuous if I'm not prepared for a situation, and I can fight against that. So why put myself in a position that I don't need to be in? Like, why do I need to make things more stressful for myself? Like, putting on my wedding, like, it might seem like it was a shallow endeavor, even though it was the greatest event in my life. Putting on my wedding proved to me that I can be extremely organized and responsive, and if I want to be whatever, I can do it. Like, I was very ready to take on that task, because I am an organized person. Like, I think I've internalized the things people have told me, because, like, people make the mistake of, like, labeling a child rather than, like, addressing the things that they need to work on.
So interesting. Your wedding made me feel like I was a disorganized person.
Oh my
because
God.
You would be on me, like, did you get your hair appointment done? Did you get your bridesmaid's outfit? And I'm like, no, not yet. So I feel like, yeah, you were on top of things more than I was. I mean, it's not my wedding, but you were very on top of things.
I mean, I was definitely very, very motivated to make it the greatest event ever. But yes, it does prove to me that I can be that person. It was nice to acknowledge that, like, even though I was prescribed that label so often in my life, that doesn't have to be something I have to live under. And I think that's important for everyone to recognize that we are malleable people, and the things that, like, the negative traits that we seem to put on our forehead sometimes are undeserved. I'm just going to plug Brene Brown. She talks about the gifts of imperfection, and her daughter was in school, and her teacher comes up to the little girl, and she's like, "Oh, you made a mess. Like, you're being a little messy here. You made a mess." And the little girl's like, I made a mess. I'm not messy. I challenge everyone to be like that little girl and be like, no, I'm not going to internalize whatever negative criticism that you have. Like, I appreciate whatever you're trying to teach me right now, but I'm not going to make that like a part of my identity if I know that that's not who I am. And if I want to change something about myself, if I see that I have something that I have a challenge about, you can integrate that into your life. That being said, Hermione Granger. She's incredible.
Ridiculous.
Yes.
Out of this world.
Look.
No one else like her.
She's amazing.
Not realistic. She's no, you can do it.
She's absolutely a Virgo. You know, and Virgos are almost like crazy celestial women. Like Beyonce is an example of a Virgo. They're just like it's too difficult to get to that level of womanliness. Like they're just
hard time
perfect.
Being friends with Virgos.
Yeah, like I was saying about, like, you know, me trying to, if I met Hermione, would I want to be her friend? Like, I think she would make me very aware of the things that I feel self-conscious about. But I think it is important to be to recognize that, and sometimes like put people in your corner that don't have the traits that you are aspiring to be more like. I have friends who are extremely organized. Erin A is half Japanese. I don't know if she like read Marie Kondo's book or whatever, or she just like, this is just like a part of her DNA. But like, she got the fucking boxes with the cables and shit. Like, she's just so organized. And like, just seeing her home, I feel like it influences me. It's like, I don't need to be living the way that I do sometimes. Like, I can be better. Wow, I don't know why that looks yellow. Anyway, yeah. So every time Ron, Harry, and Hermione are presented with a dilemma, Hermione is not like, let's just jump in to the Chamber of Secrets or whatever the adventure is, which is Harry's inclination. He's like, oh, I think I know exactly what this is. Let's go operate over whatever instinct I have. Hermione's like, let's read up. Let's educate ourselves. Let's get all the knowledge that's out there. I'm going to get to the library and bring all the books. And I think that's an energy that we can all be bringing into our lives. Like, let's not assume that we're experts in whatever the knowledge area is, and have the confidence to believe that you can become an expert in whatever it is.
Yeah. I definitely think about who I would want to have with me in the apocalypse. I think about that a lot, actually. It's weird. But someone like Hermione is definitely someone that you want with you on your team.
For sure. For sure.
Survival.
Yeah. If I was on Naked and Afraid. Because I don't like to think about the apocalypse.
All right, fine. Naked and Afraid.
If I was on Naked and Afraid, I would like Hermione. Hermione would be the one reading all the books on like what mushrooms you can eat and like how to clean water and whatever. Like, she would just be ready for whatever challenge that was presented. And I think sometimes if like a challenge is presented to me, I'm like, oh, I'm not ready to do that. Like, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. And like, instead of just, assuming that I won't be able to read up or educate myself on whatever, let me just go to the library and figure it out.
Yeah.
Or the internet or whatever. Another character who is also extremely prepared and organized and ready for whatever comes her way is Leslie Knope of Parks and Recreation.
Oh.
Have you watched the show?
I have. I loved it. I don't know if I could like really give you a playback of what it's about, maybe. I don't know.
Wait, how many episodes have you watched?
Listen, I've watched a few episodes here and there, like when Pam... That's not a person like that. Is The Office. I confuse them.
Michael Schur, so that's like the same writer, the creator.
Okay, I watched both of those shows, and now I'm just like confusing them both. So, but I love both. I don't want to say I like both of them.
Okay. Try again.
Okay.
You gotta watch them both again.
Okay.
I've watched both shows an obscene amount of times. I'm gonna put myself out there. I've watched both shows too many fucking times.
Can I ask which one you like better though?
That's a hard question. I'm gonna say that I probably like Parks and Recreation better. Why? Because I'm an optimist, and I say Parks and Recreation is more of an optimistic viewpoint.
Oh my god, 100%.
The Office is more like
it's very depressing.
It can be depressing.
Yeah.
It goes into like that daily grind of feeling like, oh, there's nothing that I can do, and even though Leslie Knope lives in a very similar daily grind with the government, like having that bureaucracy and red tape and like the, neighborhood not getting behind a lot of her initiatives and, just shouting a lot of things at her. Like that's an issue that is also dealt with in The Office. Like that's a similar theme. However, the way that she approaches those problems is completely different. And I think it's really interesting to watch the pilot of Parks and Recreation and then watch the show in its entirety. Because the pilot is actually not the strongest pilot. I think because they wanted it to feel like a not a sequel. It felt very, very similar to The Office. The Office had been so crazy popular, and they're like, okay, how can we create a show that gets that same magic, right? And I think they tried to make Leslie Knope kind of like a female Michael Scott, and I don't think that was the right way to go about her character. And they corrected themselves.
Yeah.
They stopped having her be dumb in situations. And instead, they focused on her conflict being her being crazy optimistic and having that positive steamrolling, and then being confronted with her government and the people all being completely different from her, and they're being the extremely silly ones. I think that was the right way they approach it.
It's so important to have someone who's just overtly optimistic though, and I think that's what I love about that character too. Actually,
she is so
it's
optimistic. I love her.
Very important to have someone who's very aware of situations, but still very optimistic.
Yes.
Yeah, I do like her.
Yes.
Watch it again. Give that another go.
Watch it again.
I'm going to give both of them a go.
Please do.
They're pleasant.
They are so good.
Yeah. The Office makes me depressed.
I can see that, especially the first season, because it can get dark sometimes because Michael Scott can be so fucking ridiculous, and he will present a lot of the things that we were dealing with in the early 2000s, homophobia, racism that we're still dealing with, but it was even more there was a quote recently, I don't know if it was from Michael Schur, someone was saying that The Office wouldn't be successful now because of we're in a world that has gotten, they would say, too PC or whatever. I don't think that's necessarily true, because I think it's a comedic show, and you can on that platform you criticize it differently than someone tweeting something or whatever. But I don't know. I thought it was great.
That's also why it's so funny, too. Just to see some of these characters who are so unaware. Michael Scott is so oblivious to the real world, which is... And so, has this delusion of grandeur, which is funny, but also endearing. Yeah. I love that character. But, yeah, I will definitely give both of them a go.
Please do. I want to talk about it more.
I would like to bring in... stealth.
Ooh.
Yes. Covertness, just this energy of...
I feel that bell ring was ringing in
that
tray.
Yes! Oh my god, how creepy.
It was stealth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Except.
Yeah. I feel something that I'm struggling with is being someone who has a lot of ambition, who has the drive to manifest and to have fruition with their creativity and to create things, but is lacking like the business knowledge to get things done, or someone who's not really aware of how the system works. And I feel like in order to get things done, as creative as you are, you still need to know how the system works, and you need to make the system work for you. So that's something that I want to do in 2019. And I feel like Don Draper from Mad Men, played by Jon Hamm, is someone that I really admire.
I love you looking at this character in this way, because let me tell you, when I love Mad Men, one of my favorite shows ever, and I've heard people be like, oh, I love Don Draper, but for reasons that I can't get behind. They're like, oh, I love Don Draper because he's bagging bitches. I love Don Draper because he's really smooth in the way that he talks, and he wears cool suits, and he's a handsome guy, and like that's the guy that I can get behind. Cool. I just feel like that's super hyper masculine.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
It's just I also like, I really very much enjoy him as the protagonist, and I think it's an interesting journey that he takes us on. But I would caution people to look at him as a hero,
right,
when you look at his
way,
his relationships with women, his the way that he communicates with his children sometimes. Like, he's just like there's a lot of things he could be working on. Yeah. However, as you say, with stealth, this is also a trait that I think I need to work on. I overshare a lot. That might be good for the podcast because y'all can hear everything about me. However, I think it is problematic because I'm also a sensitive person, that leaves me open to other people's criticism, and it prevents me from fully realizing whatever my idea is before people start like inserting their own ideas and it being affected by that. And I was once told that I need to think of it as a seedling, whatever my idea, project, or whatever is, and keeping that protected until it's strong enough to withstand whatever criticism, ideas, or whatever that come across it. And Don Draper is very, very good at that. Like, I think one of the things that makes him so successful as an ad man is that there is that sense of surprise. Like, he's not telling you exactly what his method is or how he's going about it. He says things as succinctly as possible. He doesn't let everyone into his mind. He keeps it very, very secretive. Yeah. And that's part of his appeal. People like the idea that, like, they don't know exactly what they're getting. And then when it comes, it becomes even more mystifying. It's like, wow, how did you get there?
Exactly. And let it be known, Don Draper is a mess. Yes. Like, he is very emotional and does not make the best decisions necessarily. And yeah, a lot of the women are stronger than him in the Mad Men series. Like, Peggy is very much like Hermione, very prepared, very practical, very logical. Yeah. But Don Draper has that thing where, like, people want to know him. People want to, like, people are drawn to him. Yeah. Which is something that I would love. Like, I admire. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's like a fuckboy energy, which is like, okay, yeah, you're a fuckboy.
Big dick energy, sure. Yeah. As well.
Exactly. And maybe that's what I would like. You know? Maybe we don't have to be the best people necessarily, but maybe there is something that we can learn from the anti-hero.
Yeah.
Every now and then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. But I also feel like Ruth from Ozark has that kind of... it is a devil-may-care attitude.
You know what I mean? Like Laura Linney?
Ruth is the younger version, the younger actress. Oh my gosh, her name escapes me right now. It's a great actress. But it's kind of like she's in her late teens or early 20s, and she's definitely eager to make her life better, and will do whatever it takes to get what she wants. Mm-hmm. But I do like Lauren. Any character in Ozark is like people who will do whatever they have to do to protect their family, to protect themselves, which I love. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So I also wanted to bring in some themes from TV and film that I believe are important to consider in the new year. The first theme I want to bring in is don't let the capitalist grind get you down. Mm-hmm. And that is coming from Sorry to Bother You. I love this film. So great. So innovative. So unique, so unpredictable. I don't want to reveal so many plot points because I'm sure there are people out there who have not seen this film. But it's a dystopian view of what is to come when profitability is valued over all else. And I think as people who endeavor in creative pathways, you're going to come in contact, or you're often going to be confronted with the fact that you also need to make money. Like, you can't just be following your whims. You also have to find a way to create value over the things that you make. And sometimes you're going to have a job that is not providing as much as you're giving. You know, you're putting in a lot of energy, and they're not giving you the paycheck that reflects that. That's just a part of this life, and it's unfortunate, but you got to find ways to deal with that. Corporations will hang a carrot in front of your head, motivating you to lose compassion for your coworkers, customers, etc. I think that's an issue in this film over and over, is this idea that the corporation at some point is going to value you for everything that you provided. And at some point you realize that you've lost a lot. So you've lost your humanity. And we all can't ignore that we need money. We can't, unfortunately. I mean, you could try. You could go live in the woods. But I will not. I don't like insects. We all need money to survive in this world. But what we cannot do is not let that pursuit change or alter our humanity. Do whatever you can to protect the things that are most important in your world. Don't forget the things that make you who you are, and just recognize what that job is and what it truly is able to give you.
Nicole, that is so hard to do.
I know.
Especially with our generation. Mm-hmm. And there's so many people in our generation who romanticize, like, fuck the system. I'm just going to quit my 9-to-5. Yeah. And I'm just going to make my own business and grow my own food and be on top of everything. Like, I don't need to depend on anyone and make my own home and do all of these things. It's so hard. I don't know if it's possible. It definitely is possible. Mm-hmm. But how do we do that? How do we get there? You know what I mean?
I think this is something that we're all striving towards, and I don't have the secret because I'm still figuring it out. I think it's a constant struggle for everyone, and I think if you can look into your finances and your heart and you can find a way to completely invest in whatever your chosen project is, great. A lot of people don't have the luxury of that at this point. Mm-hmm. But if you can carve out a space for you at some point in your day to be creative, to invest in projects, to be around people that make you feel alive, whatever you can do to make yourself feel alive, you gotta fucking do it. You can't make excuses because, everyone's dealing with that grind. Everyone is.
What a beautiful message.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I liken myself to a young Oprah.
2019 energy, all right? Do what makes you happy. Find your joy.
You gotta carve out space for your own joy. If you gotta wake up an hour before your job starts and, go into your journal and write and just, put out whatever comes out, you gotta go do that. Whatever it takes to be able to do that.
On that note, though, something came to mind, this idea that there's, especially with our generation, there's so many people that are self-proclaimed activists and whatnot and want everyone to have, a piece of the pie and are such advocates for that. But something came to mind, everyone wants everyone to have a piece of the pie, but after they get their share first. You know what I mean? Like, as long as they get their share and what they want first, then yeah, everyone else can have what they want.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such a weird time for me because I feel like, especially in social media, it's such a brand, like persona to be this kind of activist and independent, free spirit person. But especially with non-for-profits.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going on a tangent now.
No, I see an idea developing.
Yeah,
and
like
I don't
all
want...
these non-for-profits that stand for holism and activism and social justice. And it's fine. Like, yeah, like they will exist, but they also contribute to oppressing people who work for them. Because I work for a lot of non-for-profits that stand for these things. It's such a hard thing to gauge, really.
For real, though, honestly, and this shows why this is so challenging, because as someone who has worked for these small not-for-profits, whatever, I mean, they weren't paying me, even though they were talking about, like the value of, of employment and, valuing the worker and whatnot. And, like, I'm sure they would be the same ones who are at rallies, like, saying $15 an hour, but they're not able to pay me. And, like, I understand what brings them to that situation because they're, doing all they can to fund their operations, and internships allows them to, continue operating and provide as much service to other, to low-income individuals. And I get that. However, it does seem hypocritical, doesn't it? Because you're putting yourself in a position where you're giving much more than you're able to take. You're going to, you're providing the service for a population that requires it, and that takes a lot out of you. You're taking the trauma on of the clients that you have, but what do you take home at the end of the day? Maybe you're getting some sort of skill set, but a lot of times that's not what the focus is. Like, the focus is doing whatever needs to be done that day for the organization and not developing whatever your skill set is. And it's really unfortunate. I think it's important to recognize that this is the world that we live in and that it fucking sucks sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes that can feel empowering. Just knowing this is what it is like, and not lying to ourselves about it being a situation that it isn't. Yeah. Sometimes people are taking from you, and it sucks. It fucking sucks.
Yeah. But I feel like because we're thinking about it at least having conversations about it shows that we're in a better place than we were. So I think we're on to improvement and more progressive times.
Yeah.
So, more aware. As long as everyone's aware,
Truth and reconciliation. That is something I would like to bring into 2019. Let's recognize where we're at so we can move forward.
Exactly.
Yes. What else do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about Roma?
Yes.
Cool. I loved Roma.
Me
Roma's
too.
on Netflix, guys. Alfonso Cuarón killed it.
Yes.
This, if anyone's seen Y Tu Mama También, this feels very reminiscent. The lesson that I took from this, I'm going to read it off my little notes. We generally do not have control over the larger outside forces that can impact our larger universe. Sometimes life is tragic and people disappoint you. Be sure to hold dearly to the ones you love and whom return that love. I think that this film is so beautiful because, the style of Alfonso Cuarón's movies are so incredible because he very much acknowledges the world that's happening around these characters. He doesn't just focus on the characters as if they are the most important people in this universe. They also recognize that they are part of this ecosystem that isn't necessarily, these characters aren't the most important units of the ecosystem. We're just focusing on them for the purpose of the film. It's a deeply personal, intimate film. I feel like I grew to very much love these characters. Like, I felt very connected to them. It's so important for us in, like, trying to, you know, grow as happier individuals to acknowledge that we are not the center of the universe, that there are other things that are happening outside of us, and that there are bigger problems that are sometimes more important than the small, like, daily issues that we're dealing with, even though those are also valid. The protagonist in this film, oh my gosh, it's so heartbreaking. She is often victimized by her once lover, her circumstances, and sometimes her employer, even though her employer was very understanding in certain situations that happened in the film. When the employer is under stress, she can sometimes react very harshly to the protagonist in this film, and it is unfair to them, and it seems unkind, but you understand where those people are also coming from. Like, I see this character, even though she is kind of subdued and quiet, I find her as an aspirational character, because she continues to remain grounded even though she goes through so many challenging things, and she finds this quiet joy in the small moments with her friends and the children that she looks after. And I think that's such an important message to bring into our lives, because sometimes shit is just gonna suck and we don't have control over it. Like there are horrible, tragic things that happen to so many people, and it, like, can be devastating when we focus all of our energy into all the evil things that happen in the world. But if you take comfort in the little joys and don't, like, just, like, you know, just focus on all the negative things, I think you can find a way to be happy.
Absolutely. I was very touched by this movie because I know a lot of people, a lot of my relatives actually, who are domestic workers, or in the Philippines who are domestic workers. And growing up, or even as a young adult, sometimes I look at these women, because they are mostly just women, and it looks to me like their standards are lower for life, like for quality of life, like not having the energy or time to take care of their own children, because instead they are raising other people's children and other families, and all they can do is just be quiet about it and not have say, or not be treated really like adults sometimes. Yeah. And it's very heartbreaking to see. And a few of my cousins actually came to America to be domestic workers for white families, and it's very heartbreaking, and it's very upsetting. And it's interesting to see this woman who was going through her own struggles and her own life journey, but also having to kind of be this backbone for this family, for this other family that wasn't her own. And to also be there for the kids in this family, for this woman, you know, who was also going through something because her husband left her. I loved this line from the movie where the mother is telling her, "We are women and we are alone." And it was very...
We're always alone.
We're always alone.
Yeah.
And it was very powerful and moving. And I don't know, for a while I was very upset about how domestic workers are treated. But after speaking to a lot of my family members and a lot of family friends they're like, I'm happy with this kind of job. And I'm happy that I can make money at least. I don't know. It's very weird.
I think she's able to find purpose still in that job, even though it can be demoralizing, because there were times that she was taking the blame for things that were very much not her fault. And, like, they use her as a place to direct their frustration with life. If anything is going wrong, then they're like, oh, well, she didn't clean the fridge the way that needed to be cleaned, or whatever. I think that she's able to find a lot of her purpose in the family. And I think that's important. I don't know if anyone in the podcast universe who is listening to the show has watched Hidden Brain, but I very much recommend it, one of NPR's offerings. And in one of the episodes, they talk about how the people who are happiest with their jobs are the people who recognize their purpose in the job. Like if they're like cleaning, they're a janitor for a hospital, they're like, well, I'm part of what is like helping people be treated. And like if they couldn't, if this room isn't clean, they could get an infection and die. Like I'm part of like what makes this work, you know. And I think that's, everyone has to like see their purpose in this universe. And even if like you're not exactly where you want to be yet, like you gotta like take note of the here and now and what you're doing to.
Absolutely. I also, I read an article on like this kind of study where people who are doing work as janitors had a lot more, felt a lot like more of a sense of purpose in their job than people who were in higher positions, because people who are in higher positions reported that they felt more like, you know, a pawn or, you know, like part of a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting. Yeah. I guess that's something we can all learn, I guess. Or see. Perspective is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you want to say anything else before we wrap up?
Well, something that I really want to take into 2019, it's going along more of what we've been talking about, but I just want to be smart about my money and smart about not necessarily working hard, but just working smarter. And I feel like a lot of the characters and lessons that we've talked about contribute to being on that path.
Yeah.
Yes. I've been listening to a podcast called Dumb with Money, hosted by Gabby Dunn. So shout out to that. And yeah, that's just where I'm at.
I love it. Yes. Yeah. Be smart with your money. Wise up with money, bitch. Okay. So thank you all for tuning in to Cinema Therapy. Please follow us on Cinema Therapy Show on Instagram at Cinema Therapy Show. You can email us at cinematherapyshow@gmail.com. You can follow me at Nicole Sophia, PH. Sophia with a PH. And you can follow Karen at KJ Pangantihon.
Pangantihon.
Thank you all.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Thank you to Jade
Zabrick,
and
producer.
Skies Crescent Radio.
Yes. Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
See you next